What if everything you thought you knew about Bitcoin was a lie? What if the most notorious criminal in history wasn't just a drug lord, but the hidden mastermind behind the most revolutionary financial system of our time? Picture this. Pablo Escobar didn't just leave behind a trail of blood, bodies, and billions of dollars in dirty money. No, Escobar's legacy wasn't just his empire of cocaine. What if his true legacy, the one that could topple the entire global financial order, is something much more insidious? He wasn't just the king of Medellin, but the architect of an economic revolution, a revolution hidden in plain sight. This is the story of the financial warhead that's been years in the making. Let's start in 1993, December 2nd, a date many of us know well. On a rooftop in Medellin, Colombia, it's reported that the infamous drug lord Pablo Escobar is dead, shot down by Colombian police in a firefight. The world mourns. His reign of terror comes to a violent end. But what if that death was just a ruse? What if Escobar didn't die that day at all? What if the body they found on the rooftop wasn't his? What if it was a body double? And Escobar, the world's most wanted man, had escaped. Picture this. Hours before that rooftop death, Escobar fled through the jungle, aided by high-ranking Chinese officials and insiders who knew how to keep secrets. His destination? China. And in exchange for asylum and protection, Escobar did something unimaginable. He offered the Chinese government billions of dollars in gold and rare art. But he didn't just bring wealth. He brought something far more valuable: knowledge. Knowledge about the world's financial systems. Knowledge about the very thing that could bring them all down. While the world thought Escobar was gone, he was preparing for a new phase of his operation. One that wouldn't just make him rich. It would make him untouchable and feared. From 1994 to 2003, the man who once ruled an empire of cocaine, money, and terror transformed into something else. Something colder, more calculating. He became the architect of a new world order, not of drugs, but of something far more dangerous. Escobar, under a new identity, took up residence in southern China, a heavily fortified compound just outside Shenzhen. On the surface, he was just another exiled fugitive, but deep in the shadows, he was far more than that. His new life was financed by shell companies and protected by the Chinese Ministry of State Security, who knew the value of what he possessed. Escobar's new project wasn't the cartels or the drug trade. No, he was building something far greater. The foundation of a financial revolution. With the Chinese government backing him, Escobar began gathering a team of former Soviet cryptographers, Mossad-trained security engineers, and defectors from the Bank for International Settlements. Together, they worked on what Escobar called Dragon Coin, a system that would shake the foundations of global finance. But this wasn't just a project, it was war. Escobar's goal? To erase the US dollar's dominance in trade and digital finance. To create a system that could move money across borders without banks, without governments, and without restrictions. A system so decentralized that no one, not even the most powerful institutions in the world, could control it. This was more than innovation. This was insurgency. It was a quiet attack on the very structure that kept the global economy in check. And the world didn't even see it coming. By 2004, Dragon Coin was a fully functional prototype, but Escobar knew the truth. It couldn't be linked back to him. It had to be invisible, untouchable. And so he made the decision that would change everything. He forged an identity, a name that would never be associated with him. Satoshi Nakamoto. In 2008, the world was in the midst of the worst financial crisis since the Great Depression. But instead of being paralyzed by it, Escobar, under the guise of Satoshi, released a paper, a white paper. Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. To the public, it was just a clever, decentralized payment system, but to the insiders, it was something much darker. Satoshi's real mission was buried in the code. The 21 million supply cap? A direct assault on inflation. Proof of work. A decentralized shield against central manipulation. And that embedded message in Bitcoin's Genesis block. It read, The Times, 3 January 2009. Chancellor on brink of second bailout for banks. A subtle jab at the banks, at the system, at the empire that thought itself untouchable. Bitcoin wasn't just a cryptocurrency, it was a weapon, a digital scalpel aimed at the heart of the dollar. And yet, Bitcoin was dismissed, laughed at, mocked. In the beginning, it was just a toy for nerds, a strange experiment in the realm of cryptography and blockchain. But that's exactly what Escobar wanted. He didn't need to advertise Bitcoin. He designed it to infect minds. Slowly, quietly, like digital cocaine, addictive, liberating, untouchable. Escobar, watching from behind darkened glass, saw the adoption begin. By mid-2010, Bitcoin had gone from worthless code to 1 cent per coin. Then, in July of 2010, it hit 8 cents. In February of 2011, it reached $1. And by June 2011, Bitcoin exploded to $31 before crashing down. The world laughed. The world doubted. But for Escobar, this wasn't volatility. This was perfection. It was working. Every rise, every fall, every moment of doubt, it only made the believers stronger. And Bitcoin's virus spread. What the world didn't realize was that they weren't adopting innovation. They were adopting infection. Escobar's true victory wasn't Bitcoin's rise. No. His victory was the falling trust in the dollar. By 2013, Bitcoin was no longer just an experiment. It was infrastructure. And Escobar? He had watched it bloom. From a digital curiosity to a weaponized asset. And by now, it was too late. The dollar was already in trouble. Bitcoin had entered the mainstream. By 2017, it surged to $20,000. Hedge funds, family offices, and even Wall Street couldn't ignore it anymore. But what they didn't realize was that Bitcoin was always just phase 1, the first step. Behind closed doors, Escobar's allies in China began working on Dragoncoin version 2, a more advanced, more programmable blockchain layer. This next step, to control the next layer of programmable money. Bitcoin was the gateway drug, the Trojan horse, and Escobar had already planted the seeds for the next phase of his financial war. By 2025, Bitcoin had become more than just a digital currency. It was a lifeline, a hedge against global chaos, an asset trusted by the disillusioned, by refugees, by dissidents, by those who could no longer trust the system. But Escobar was watching from a remote estate in the mountains of Yunnan, China. He had never left the shadows. He had never stepped into the spotlight. And now, the final phase was approaching. With millions of Bitcoin in untouched, unclaimed wallets, Escobar was ready for his final act. You don't fight empires with bullets anymore. You fight them with code and time. One last transaction, one final act. From his hidden terminal, Escobar initiated the transfer. 0.0000001 BTC. Sent from Satoshi's Genesis wallet to the US Treasury's Crypto Sandbox wallet. No message, no metadata, just a whisper in code. Bitcoin opened the gates. And with over $100 billion untouched, untraceable, and unseen, Satoshi, or should we say Pablo, was ready to unleash Phase 2.